AO parallelogram yon. So, ibig sabihin, itong KA prime parallel dun sa AO. So, ibig sabihin, 90 degrees din yon. Alright. Okay.
Meron ka bang saucer?
And then, so ngayon, nangyari ay, so therefore, A prime K bisects EF. Well, since A prime K, so it actually goes through and it's a diameter. And when a diameter bisects when a diameter is perpendicular to a chord, it actually bisects that chord. And so therefore it bisects the arc of that chord, which is EF. So actually that's it. So, and then it's the same argument for the rest. For a while, I paused because I was thinking of another approach. Kasi remember, N is the center of meron tayong homotity. Nasa the figure for the homotity that generates the 9-point circle. So kasi I wonder if you look at the corresponding points from the larger circle, ano nung corresponding points ng E, K, and F, so baka doon din mapakita natin ng ano.
Baka nasa ano po, nasa isa, yung previous po, ayan po.
So ayoko na mag-drawing eh, it's already somewhere here.
Pero ano po,
Maybe.
efficiency guys, tas laziness po. Laziness guys, efficiency.
All of those. All right. Anyway, if it's some.
Basically, ano po, using GeoGebra. I'm trying to be efficient here. Actually, in my mind po.
In the end, mas nagtagal eh, no?
I'm lazy and I want to draw a figure made by a computer.
Nahanap ko naman meron ng larger circle, so it's gonna be through the orthocenter. Ang center will be the orthocenter. Okay, dapat hinanap ko na kanina, but it didn't occur to me earlier. It just occurred to me now. Well, 9-point circle. Wait, so September 21. This is the first time we talked about it. So maybe in September 28, that was when I was able to highlight the fact that it's the result of a homotity.
Literally, ano po. Pero kung basically po, I would not be able to solve that by using homotopes.
Pero tingnan natin kasi sandali ito nung K, di ba? Ito nung K. Tapos ano nung E and F dun sa figure. E and F are the feet of the altitudes. E and F are the feet of the altitudes. So wait, E nung nandun sa AC. So AC, ito nung
so yung blue and ano po? Blue and hindi pala blue.
Yung nung blue is nung blue nung midpoints eh.
Anong kulay po yan?
Red? So red. Red, yung okay. Red. Okay.
Mga red po na points sa labas.
So the center of homotity is H. So ngayon, ang images ng K, E, and F are these. Ito. This.
Ano po kasi yung significance po niyan? Baka
nung red na yun. So A is one of the vertices. Tapos nung red, nung nasa blue circle. It's just the reflection of the orthocenter H with respect to the. So actually, kung ganon, this is the extension of the altitude. The extension of the altitude. Tapos, this one. Okay, so tawagin natin tong special points na to as, so okay, you have A, and then hala, ginulo ko na. This is P, and then Q. So it suffices to show that PA and AQ, yun ang gusto natin gawin, ipakita that they are congruent arcs. But then here's the thing. Okay? Angle alpha to, di ba? So itong arc na to, ang inscribed angle niya is this one. But then because you have 90 degrees here, this is 90 degrees minus alpha.
No.
And
No.
then here 90 degrees, and then this is alpha.
No.
So this is also 90 degrees minus alpha. And then,
No.
so if you look at the circle, okay, these arcs are congruent because they're subtended by congruent angles 90 degrees minus alpha. So yun lang.
No.
Okay.
Elementary.
PA and AQ are congruent arcs. So therefore, nung images under the half homotity, itong FK and EK are congruent. That's why.
No. Elementary proof.
Di ba? Fun?
This
Alright. Okay. So hindi na kailangan gamitin nung perpendicular argument. So anyways, ayun. Di ba? It's fun. Fun, di ba? Alright. Okay, so tanggalin ko na to. So I don't know what this lesson was for. Okay. Okie dokie. So now we go to November 5. I appreciate that you tried to answer this particular question. At least nabasa mo na siya, inintindi mo na siya. However, I meant this question as an example for the next kind of geometric transformation, which is a half turn. So dito ang usapan kasi ay translation. I don't think meron akong naiwang exercises for a rotation. Okay. So ito half turn nung next geometric transformation. But wait, let me check if I'm done with everything I wanted to talk about regarding translations. Actually, yes. Okay. So, okay, but at least nabasa mo na. I do have a comment though. These are parts correct. So ganito, we're given two circles, and then point A is a point of intersection. So you're right to consider the various situations where there's a single point of intersection versus there are 2 points of intersection, as you can see in part 3. So parts 1 and 2 cater to the situations where the two circles only have 2 points of intersection. Now the thing is, we want to draw a line through A, and then it's supposed to intersect the two circles, and we label the intersections in case 1 as I sub 1 and I sub 2. So the question is, how do you draw that line so that the chords that are cut, A I sub 1 versus A I sub 2, are going to have the same length? Now, you argued in part number 1 that if the two circles are tangent at A, but they have different radii, that it's actually impossible. Okay, so okay. So did you mention what would happen if the radii are the same? Then if the radii are the same, then it would work, right? Mag-work kasi mangyayari itong side na to, S would also be, well, kasi that's going to be the radius, and then that's going to be the radius. So ibig sabihin, this length and this length are going to be corresponding sides of congruent triangles, so they're going to be equal. So if the two circles are tangent at A and they happen to have the same radius, then it doesn't matter how you draw L. So as long as it's through that point. So kunwari, these are the two circles, and this is okay. Bear with the figure. So it doesn't matter how you draw the line. This and that will be equal.
It looks like two slimes decided to
Okay.
kiss.
Okay. So that's an eye looking at you. All right, but at any rate, those two segments are those.
Crazy Squidward.
Oo nga sobrang taas nung isa. So okay, they're also gonna be congruent. That's ito, you consider the case where there's still tangent, but the tangency is internal, but then in that case, imposible kasi one of the chords will always be shorter than the other. Okay. So now, the next case, ganito, you're onto something, and the truth is, much of the work is to be done under case number 3. However, um, you failed to consider one case kasi ito, nung what you drew here is a situation where one of the two okay, ang consider mong case is I2 is between say ito I2 is between A and I sub 1. So pwede din naman nung A and then I sub 1 ang kasunod and I sub 2. But what you fail to consider is the case where A is between I1 and I2. So as exemplified by this scenario. Kunwari ito nung A. So how about ganito oh.
Lagay ko na lang po.
Ito na I1 and I2. Diba? Kasi posible yan eh. Posible nung chord on the left circle and the part of the orange chord on the right circle, posible silang mag-equal eh.
Lagay ko na lang po.
Alright, so sige. Pero actually, I intend to present this problem as an example.
No!
But don't worry,
when the blue box was painted yellow.
but don't worry, meron ng may mga ibang ipapadry. So what I'd like to talk about is a particular. So I'm sure you're familiar with a rotation, but what I'd like to talk about specifically first are half turns or rotations at 180 degrees, and then we're gonna talk about rotations in general. So ito, nakita ko na itong drawing that you added earlier. Talagang double standard eh. Usually ganun naman eh. Mga iba nagpipaint ng narrative.
Me after sa MS Paint po ako.
Okay. As some parties paint themselves as victims and then they modify their narrative to cater to well their base. Okay. So what is a half turn? Okay. A half turn
How do you distinguish between a 720-degree turn and a 360-degree turn?
In terms of the destination, there's no difference.
Hindi po,
Parang
kung let's say 3-dimensional po siya, hindi po siya 2-dimensional. Is there a way to...
okay. But in the same plane or in different planes? Hindi, pero hold on. I suppose, kung kunwari magkaibang plane, yung paggagawa ng 360 degree. Wait, hold on. Even if the planes are different, the end point will be the same. Kasi when you do any kind of rotation, even if it's in 3-dimensional place, you're doing it in a particular plane. Kasi when you do a 360-degree turn, diba the point will go back to where it started?
Baka iba po yung sabihin ko na rotation po. Parang ganun to po. Yung belt. Pagka 360. Pagka 720. Ako na.
Okay. Okay, so ano yan?
Ito po, pagka tinanong ko 360. Ganito po siya. Hindi ko siya mabalik. Pagka 700.
Okay. Parang torsion naman nung... I mean, it's not a geometric transformation where you move a point to somewhere else. What you're changing is an object. So you're twisting an object.
Basta po na-realize ko po. Parang torsion. Pero na-realize ko po kasi, pag somehow hindi ko po ma-replicate ngayon, Pagka 720, pwede ko po siya mabalik dito. Yung sa pagiging ganito.
But then you'll have to explain to me what exactly do you mean by a 360-degree turn on that belt so that we're on
Baka
the same
siguro parang
page.
ano po, parang isa is fixed, tapos isa will be moving.
One point yun. May axis yung belt, dun ba yun?
Opo.
Oh,
Tapos
pero where?
yung 1 point daw po, fixed. Tapos magtutwist. Bali, para magtutwist po yung belt, yun yata ang may ibig sabihin mo.
Pero you're right, Sir Joy, no? Parang nung twisting, hindi ko ma-imagine kasi you're twisting the belt itself, parang yun nga, tinitwirl. So,
Isa lang po yung isa lang pong end ang tinatwirl niya po eh.
okay, alright, isang end lang ng tinitwirl, sige, para ano. And then, nung isang end, yun nung iniikot.
Apo.
So, but then I
Iba
don't know
yata.
how to...
Iba yata po yung ibig sabihin ng rotation.
Yeah.
Rotation yata po.
Parang
Rotation
sa
lahat. Parang
circle.
rotation yata po lahat. All of
Oh,
them.
sa ibang rotation yan nung tinutukoy mo.
Parang-
Ibang rotation.
Parang
Okay.
where-
So twirl yan. So kaya nga nung buti na recognize nung nung torsion nung may degree of nung twisting. Okay, pero nung turn na pag-usapan natin ng rotation, this is something else. So let me define. So a half turn is a geometric transformation which requires a particular ingredient. Remember, when you do a translation, the important ingredient is a vector because that tells us, sige, starting with a point, so you're going to move it what distance and in what direction. So those two aspects, the distance and direction, is captured by by a vector. So again, for every vector, there's a corresponding translation, and vice versa. A translation is described by a vector. Now, a half turn, one of the ingredients of the only ingredient of a half turn is a fixed point. Half turn around a point O. So which we're going to call the center.
About point O?
Ano yan?
Reflection about point O po?
So actually, that's precisely what's going to happen. It's going to be a reflection around point O. So ito, point O. Then, kunwari, if you have this point here, this point A, okay, the image will be the reflection. So it's going to be another point on the plane, which is A prime, so that O is the midpoint of A and A prime. And then if we have, let's say, another point, B, okay, then the reflection of B, let's say we call it B prime. All right. So when we talk about sets of points, yes, we could do a half turn. So if you take the segment AB, where that's going to be brought to is the segment A prime, B prime. But just to be clear, it's not really A being sent to B prime, but rather A is sent to A prime. So parang nangyari, kunwari kung magsasabit ka ng balloon dito sa point A, so red balloon, when you do a half turn of this segment around point O, the red endpoint will be sent here. So babaliktad. But then what we see is that when we do a half turn, okay, it sends so a half turn is essentially, you're right, a reflection. This is a reflection with respect to the center, which is point O. So you could also therefore think of this as a rotation of 180 degrees with respect to point O. Paanong 180 degrees? Parang kasi nangyari, starting with ito, O the center going to point A. If you think of that as a ray OA, ang ginagawa natin, i-rotate natin itong ray na to 180 degrees, 180 degrees, and that would then give us this new ray OA prime. Okay, so nung ray OA, the image under the half turn is ray OA prime. Okay, so when we do a half turn, okay, a segment is brought to a congruent parallel segment. And then as for a line, when we do a half turn, and it doesn't matter where the center of the half turn is, it may be or may not be on the line. The corresponding image is still going to be a line, and in fact, it's going to be a parallel line. So a half turn is a transformation which preserves parallelism. In fact, translations also do that. When you look at a segment and then you translate it, what you get is a segment which is also parallel. How about a circle? When you do a half turn, what's gonna happen? Okay, what's the image of the circle going to be?
It's going to be another circle that happens to be in the exact same position and has the same radius as the previous circle.
Well, the position will depend on where the center is. Kasi halimbawa,
Okay. Ano pa pala, at nagmali ako. Yung circle mismo po is being rotated about a line.
so kunwari ito
So it will be
nung point
translated
O, and then ito circle.
So it'll just be translated po, sort of.
Oh, all right. So it's the image is gonna be a congruent circle. So in fact, it doesn't have to be a circle or a polygon, but if you have a blob or a closed curve, it will be sent to a closed curve, which is also congruent. So ito congruent polygon. Okay.
So basically,
So
anything around the half turn nga po is being transported about that line.
alright, pero posibleng may change in orientation, or at least as you can see in the illustration, nung A nasa taas, nung B nasa baba, but when you do the half turn, B prime na nasa taas and then A prime na nasa baba. Alright, now this was the problem that you attempted to do, and I'm so happy you tried doing it. So, but let's handle the situation where the two
But yung ano
circles.
po, sad po ako is that you will be discussing it now.
Ay, don't worry, meron akong mga ibang ipapagawa din sa'yo. Huwag kang mag-alala. Ayan, no? So, hindi tayo mauubusan. Okay? So, in fact, hindi lang isa, but instead, tatlo. In fact, itong mga mini-move ko to the side, ito nung what I would like you to think about. Okay? So, ito muna. Given two circles,
But ano po,
C1 and...
what I will be thinking about for the next days.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Okay. So if C1 and C2 are tangent at A, you've already done that. Okay. If C1 and C2 are tangent at A,
So yun pala yung butas ko. Yung butas ko can only be explained by using translations.
or actually half turn ang gagawin natin
Half
ngayon.
turns.
So if C1 and C2 are tangent at A, you've already done this. Okay. The task is possible only if the radii are the same. Okay, so suppose C1 and C2 intersect at 2 points A and B. Okay, time to move all these other problems all the way down. Uh,
What is that? Ano po? What is that blasphemy?
it's to highlight everything that's going to be
It is to
inside.
anger. It is to anger me po. It is to give me pain and suffering.
Okay. You're full of anger, my friend. I I think you need to meditate. Okay. So suppose C1 and C2 intersect at 2 points A and B. Sige, gamitin natin ng ano nung shapes. And then let's
Ano po ayaw gamitin yung shapes?
okay. And then para general, let's assume that ano, magkaiba sila ng sizes. But then later on we'll see if that will have any bearing or any impact na magkaiba ng sizes nila. So okay, so we have here this is, let's say this is this needs to be woken up. All right. So here you have points A. All right. Points A and B. A and B. Let's work backwards. Okay. Kunwari, okay, na-drawing na natin nung line so that the chords that the two circles cut, so let's say C1 is the circle on the left and then C2 is the circle on the right. So kunwari, this is the, let's say this is the line. Okay, such that if you look at, if you call this P and Q, then PA and QA have the same length. Okay? So parang working backwards. So ngayon, ang task natin, to be able to draw the line, because that's really the task, describe how to draw the line, that would be equivalent to figuring out saan dapat no point P. O kasi, kunwari, once makapag-set up tayo ng algorithm which tells us, oh, then point P should be drawn here, then all you need to do is connect P with A and then extend it until it intersects the other circle at point Q. Or equivalently, if this algorithm tells us where point Q is on the right side, then extend QA until it meets the left circle at point P. So then, but then it's a question of how should we locate points P or Q? Actually, kahit isa lang. Okay, point P and point Q. Okay, now what our inspiration is going to be is the fact that, diba, if we do a half turn, it sends a segment onto another segment which has
Congruent.
the same length and parallel to it. So congruent.
When
Okay.
nagka-half turn po, basically it sends a point. It makes the reference point a midpoint, and then sends the point sends the point to the other point where the reference point is the midpoint. Ganun po.
Yes, yes. Oh, so A is going to be the midpoint. So that's the reference point that you're talking about. So then what we realize here is that since A is the midpoint of PQ, then that makes P and Q reflections of each other with respect to point A. Now point A is something that we know. Tapos, so, ganito, no? If we're gonna carry on this half turn with respect to A, point Q will be brought to point P. Okay, now Q is part of that other circle. Now, that same rotation, that same half turn, sorry, that same half turn will, wait, finally time to label. This is C1 and then this is C2. So mangyari, if you apply the half turn on C2 with respect to A, that's gonna convert that circle C2 to another congruent circle. Okay, tapos ang mangyayari, so ito no, okay, that will be brought to another circle. So syempre iikot ng 180 degrees. Okay, but the image would be another circle. But then what's gonna happen is that nung point Q, ang image niya will be point P. So ibig sabihin, if point P is in C1, okay, then that means point P is also going to be in the image of circle C2. Gets nung ano, nung argument. So parang ganito na lang. So itong what I'm talking about right now is the sort of backwards work that tells us how to determine nung ano nung point P and Q. How about I do it in GeoGebra?
Para hindi po, para to scale po. For once.
Papara rin to scale kasi I mean we have this form of technology available to us, so let's use this to the hilt. So we have, all right, let's draw a circle. So let's say this is
Iyo,
C1.
ginagamit niya po yung ano, yung graph.
I say another point. Wait, hold on. I guess it doesn't matter. I'll just choose a point on this object. A, and then B, and then C, and then D. All right, I don't need the grid. So I have circle centered A. This is supposed to be C1, and then the other circle, C all the way to D. This is supposed to be C2.
Pwede
And
po para
then
sa compass po.
Parang movement, ano po, no? About A na po. Magro-rotate about
Parang
A.
compass po.
yeah. So ito nung ano, sige, let me relabel. This is the point A in our discussion. A. Actually, all these other points, but just for the sake of me being able to move them, let me remove the labels. Okay, so yun nung point A, and then nasa baba nung point D. And then we want to make point A the center of uh, this black point. Sige, lakihan natin. Let's make it a little bit more prominent. Okay, let's say we make it red. Ayan. Okay, so we're gonna make that the center of the half turn, and then what we're going to do is, okay, rotate this circle, reflect about point, itong circle na to, with respect to point A. Ayan.
No. No.
So then what's so interesting is that if you look at, so ito nung original,
Basically,
no?
yun po, you change yung situation po. Parang naging yung sa previous.
Naging nung sa ano, nung sa,
Yung ano po, yung A is between is na one of the intersections is between the A and is between wait, one of the intersections between A and the other intersection.
A and the other, you mean ito nung point B? This one with the mouse? I'm not sure I got what you're saying though.
Parang nag-ano po siya, it evolved into the other situation po.
Anong where you have two circles which are tangent?
Hindi po.
Tangent and then congruent.
Hindi po. Yung ano, ay, pwede rin. Na-realize ko rin po pala, pwede rin siya. Parang transitivity. If we can prove na yung tangent and congruent equals sa isa pa.
Alright, kasi mangyayari, itong two green circles na to, congruent sila. Tapos tangent at A. So that means if you pass on any line through A, nung part ng chord in the solid green will be congruent to the chord in the dash green. Okay? But nung other chord that we want it to be in the black circle. So therefore, nung isang chord should be in the dash green and also in the black circle. So therefore, ng intersection ng dash green and black point, yun nung other point na kailangan natin. Ito, so if you call this P, so ayun na, connect natin ng P and A. So now this is what we're gonna call point Q.
So the Q transferred to P na.
Oh, so nung P transferred to Q. Kasi, yes, precisely that's what happened. Yun ang nangyari sa half turn. Kasi, parang kung titignan natin ng end result, because we want PA and QA to be congruent, then that means P is the reflection of Q with respect to A. So, ayun, ginatas, so kaya alam natin na A dapat nung center of the half turn that we have to use. And because Q is part of the of C2, the green circle, then nung image the image of Q should also be part of the image of the green circle. Okay? So nung other point P na hinahanap natin, it should be on the image green circle and it should also be on the black circle. So yun, i-drawing natin nung half turn, where did we use it in coming up with the dash green circle? Ito, check nga natin ng lengths ng segments. Ito, PA. So you have segment G of length 7.84. And then next, let's connect A and Q. So there you have on the left panel, segment H, whose length is also 7.84. Okay, so what we employed here is a half turn. Okay, so ito na lang nung kukopyahin ko dun sa para meron tayong reference. So this is itong circle na to.
Paano niyo po kopyahin?
Ha?
Paano niyo po i-kopyahin?
Pwede, I'm gonna take a snapshot. Ito, pwede kong gawing mathematized. C1, pwede natin gawing large.
What? Talagang ano po, latex pro.
Oh, yun o, C1.
Grabe! Latex professional po kayo.
Well, so things na na-discover lang. So ito, large C2. Ayan. Tapos ito nung image. Ano ba? C3 na nga lang eh. Large C2 prime.
C2 po yung drink.
Oh yeah, the drink, precisely.
Ano po,
Alright, so
C2
ayun.
and then there is C4.
Ooh, okay. So there we go. All right, and then I'm gonna take a snapshot. Snip. Then I'm gonna copy and then go back to the main screen. Okay. There. Pwede kong lipat. Yeah.
Scale na.
All right, and then it's time to.
Finally po,
Okay.
it is now to scale.
Nice. Okay. So ito. Okay. Do a half turn on C2 around or at or about point A. Okay. Where the image, okay, C2 prime and C1 intersect. Okay. Let that be P. Okay. Let line PA intersect C2 again at Q. Okay. So the idea here is that, okay, note that, okay, P is the image, okay, of Q with respect to the half turn. Okay. How do we know nung P ang partner ng Q? Well, kasi nung image ng Q should be collinear with Q and the center. Okay, so the image should be along that line. But then because Q is on C2, then the image should be on the image circle C2 prime. But it's only point P, which is on that line and on C2 prime. So ibig sabihin, point P, yun ang image.
Anong tawag po sa
Okay.
parang transformation ng point? Transformation po?
Sorry, what do you call the what?
The sort of the transformation of a point, sort of like reflection, rotation, homosity, inversion, mga ganun po.
The general term for these geometric transformations.
Tama pala po ako. Yung ano po, yung lahat mo ng awit na baka nakalimutan ko po yung sasabihin ko. Wait. Lahat po ng transfer, what happens when you transform a point. Does that mean, is that called an image po?
Yeah, image. So actually, nung image is a general term we use to refer to the result of a transformation. So for example, we could talk about the image of a point or the image of a circle. That would refer to the corresponding output. Okay. So under a half turn, the image of a segment is a congruent parallel segment. Okay. Thus, because P is the image of Q, then we have PA equals QA. So that's it. Okay, and that's what we're after. Kasi therefore, this line is the line that we're looking for because then PA and QA are the chords and they're congruent. Okay. Ito. All right. Tingnan natin. But hey, there are, okay. So isang this is one problem. Before we go to other half turns, it's interesting to see what would be the effect of doing various transformations successively. Kunwari, halimbawa, if we do a translation and then another translation, all right, so kunwari, you have these two vectors, vector u and then vector v. Kunwari, you start with a triangle. And then when you apply vector u, that's gonna bring the triangle to a different position. Okay, translation, vector u. And then when you do a translation along and in the direction of vector v, the resulting image would still be a triangle. But then if you look at where we started, which is this triangle, and where we eventually ended, do you see that effectively what we did is a translation?
Ano po, yun yata po yung definition po ng vector addition?
So what we did here is a translation along the vector sum of u and v. So in other words, a translation plus a translation is another translation. A translation with vector u plus a translation with vector v is a translation along the vector, which is the sum of u and v. All right. But what would be interesting is, kunwari pag samasamahin natin, half turn plus another half turn. Or what if pagbaliktarin natin sila nung half turn. Tapos magkaiba nung mga center para general talaga, hindi nung kasi kung kunwari, halimbawa, you have center O. Tapos nung point A, if you do a half turn, the image is going to be A prime. But now if you act on A prime and perform another half turn, that's just going to bring you back to A. Diba? So it'd be interesting what if the center was another point? So yun ang mga titignan natin, mga iba't ibang combinations. Now some of these are not difficult to think of, but it helps to be conscious about them and formalize them. So for example, what would happen if we do a half turn plus a half turn?
It will bring the ano po. It will delete the previous object and replace it with an exactly identical object.
All right, so the result will be congruent, pero nung orientation is something that we're also gonna have to consider kasi parang nung halimbawa triangle, tapos may rotation ba nung triangle or babaliktad ba? So halimbawa, kita mo na sa illustration dito sa taas, diba? Nung AB and A prime, B prime, in that sense, nagbaliktad ng endpoints eh.
No change po.
Okay, so you're gonna get another, if you're starting with a polygon, so it'll be another congruent polygon, all right? Pero in general, kunwari, here's what we have. So here is, ito. It's easy to think in terms of a segment, A, B. And then we have this center, let's call it O1. And then if you look at the image of A with respect to O1, so ito nung makukuha natin, A1, and then B with respect to O1. So here we're gonna get B1. So the image is a parallel congruent segment, pero nangyari na baligtad. So if, for instance, AB is actually part of an isosceles triangle like this, para lang mas ma-visualize natin. All right. Then if you think of the effect of that particular half turn on this triangle, then the pointy part would now be towards A1 rather than B1. So ganito nung mangyayari. All right. Okay, medyo distorted lang, but anyways. And then what if we do another half turn around a different point, O2, pero ilagay natin dito sa right side kasi kung doon din sa left side, mas gugulo nung figure. So let's say here is where we have O2. red naman kunwari. So A1, ang image niya would be here. Okay, let's call it A2. And as for B1's image, let's call that B2. Okay. So nung segments AB, A1, B1, A2, B2, they're all going to be parallel to each other. All right. But if you would look at A2 and B2, parang nagtama na ng orientation. All right. A2 is now what's higher compared to B2. So if you look at the purple triangle, mangyayari is it would now be oriented like so. So then in this case, what did we get? If you would compare triangle T, and then this is triangle T1, and this is triangle T2, what do you think was the transformation done if you would just look at the starting purple triangle T and the end result T2?
Translation.
Because then, yeah, it's a translation. So a half turn plus a half turn results in a translation. And so in general, that means if we're going to perform many, many half turns, regardless of whether the centers are the same or not, if there's going to be an even number of half turns done successively, then you can pair them up. That means the result is ultimately a translation. However, if we're going to do in succession half turns, but there is an odd number of them, okay, then the result is that, well, I suppose, ano ngayon ang, so, kunwari, 7 half turns, nung 6 half turns, plus the single half turn, the 6 half turns would be a translation.
Parang parang something reflection translation.
So parang tignan natin, no? Actually, tignan natin what is the result of a translation and a half turn. Okay, tapos tignan din natin. Oh, also, however, before we leave this, okay, ang gusto ko naman isipin, what if we do a half turn at O2 and then at O1, kung kunwari, babalik ta rin natin. Okay. Just copy the, let me take the same details here. So kunwari, ito naman sila. Okay. Let me erase ng images.
Basically, is cheating po.
Yes, that's what we're doing. Okay.
Talagang ano po, I don't really care anymore. What I'm doing is a war crime. Yes, it is a war crime.
Panindigan na natin. All right. I wasn't a signatory to the Geneva Convention by all right, documents. Okay. So what if we start with respect to A2? Okay. Parang pagsisisihan ko yata ang layo nito. Okay. So this is A1. At any rate, okay. Basta may parallelogram na form, and I know I can end here kasi dapat parallel si A1, B1. Okay. B1. And then, yes, pagsisisihan ko nga, but then you see that nung A2, nandun siya sa kabila.
Tama.
Okay. So hindi ko na ito-drawing ha, pero ang reflection naman ng A, what did I use? Red? Okay, pero this time, pag i-connect natin sa A1, ayan, okay, nung image na A2, nandun pa nung A2. All right. So we know that the result of these two half turns is a translation, but it's a different translation. Okay. So therefore, the order of the half turns matters. So that's relevant. Pag ibahin mo, kahit i-reverse mo or i-jumble, the order of the half turns is generally going to be different. Okay, so the next issue is, what if half turn and translation? And then might as well translation and then a half turn, because we realize that order is relevant here. So let's do first translation. Okay, plus half turn. So let's say nung vector natin, para di na tayo mahirapan, ganyan lang kahaba. Horizontal. Okay, and then we have vector A, B. Sorry, points A and B. And then if we're gonna do a translation, tatas ng O1, let's say it's somewhere here. Okay, O1. Okay, so when we do the translation, so okay, so we get this is gonna be A prime and then B prime. And then when we do the reflection with respect to O1, so here is where we find A1, and here is where we find B1. Okay, in terms of the purple triangle that I was utilizing earlier, okay, so ito pa rin, the purple triangle would be translated, but then after the rotation, it's gonna turn over.
So basically, another rotation po.
Yes, it's gonna be a half turn, at a different center. So it's gonna be a half turn. And then where is the center gonna be? It's somewhere else, but it's definitely not O1. Okay, and then when we do I'm not gonna illustrate it anymore, but when we do a half turn plus a translation, what do you think is the resulting geometric transformation?
It's a translation plus a half turn. Same thing po.
Which is yes, it is a half turn, and of course the half turn is gonna have a different center than the original half turn. Okay. So for a half turn, okay, when we talk of a fixed point of a transformation, we're talking about things which don't change. So if we talk about a half turn, if we perform a half turn, what is the only point on the plane which does not change or is the same as its own image? The only fixed point.
Wait.
of a half turn is, or
The
is there?
it is the exact. Oh wait, no. It's the it is, they are the points along the points that are collinear with the. Oh wait, no, whatever. Yung nasa na po, it's on the points that are on the axis. Wait a mo.
What axis? Okay, ganito no. Let's say we have the entire plane, and then here is the center of the half turn, point O. So mangyayari, if you have this point P, it's going to be sent to its image Q. So in this case, the image of P is a different point. Now what I'm asking, is there any point on the entire plane whose image is itself?
Oh. O one. O itself. O itself.
O itself. Actually, siya lang, di ba? The only fixed point of a half turn is the center. Okay. How about ito? The only fixed lines of a half turn. So kasi ganito naman, no? Kunwari, okay, ito. Let's consider this line. And then let's do a half turn. Now, if you take, for instance, the point on the line that's closest to O, and then call that point P, then the image is going to be this other point Q. And then the image of line L should be parallel to it, but this time it would pass through point Q. So this would be the image L prime. But here's the thing. The line L is different from its image L prime. My question is this. Are there lines on the plane whose image with respect to
Any line
the
po that
particular
contains
half turn is itself?
any line po that contains O.
Yes, any line that contains O. All right, kasi mangyayari, you're right. The points will be, any other points will be sent to somewhere else, but it will be sent along the same line. So ito no, let's say you have this point A, but then the image will be point B, and it's still going to be on the same line. So any other point here will be sent to another point also on the same line. So in the end, line L, the image of the totality of line L is itself. So you're right, the only fixed lines of a half turn are lines through the center. How about fixed circles? Are there any fixed circles of a half turn?
Any circle that O is the center of.
Right. So any circle whose center is the center of the center of the half turn. All right. Okay, so let's now look at some problems. Ito. Problem time.
Ano, discussion time over po. Time to problem.
Ito. So n is a positive integer. So or even integer. Everybody sabihin mo, what if n is negative 8? Eh, i-aminin na natin. Positive. Okay. And then, so hindi rin pwedeng 0. And then we have these points. O1, O2, all the way to O sub n. And then we have an arbitrary segment AB. And then A1, B1 is what's obtained from AB by a half turn about O1. And then, so in other words, A1, B1 is the image of AB, all right, after the half turn on O1. And then A1, B1, do a half turn on it, but this time on with center O2, and the image is A2 B2, and then you keep on doing this. So from A2 B2, half turn about O3, then you'll get A3 B3. Okay, and so on. So show that A sub n is congruent to B sub n. And then, well, the consideration here is that n is even. Next consideration, what if n is odd?
If n is
How about mamaya na yan? First, let's consider the case where n is even. So you're doing these n half turns successively, starting with AB until in the end we get the segment A sub n, B sub n. Well, at any rate, yeah, we're gonna get the points A sub n and B sub n. So why would A sub n and B sub n be the same?
A E O. Uh-huh. Okay. So A and B N is exactly the same as A B, yet it's been translated.
What's that? What's that again? Ano nangyari?
A
Say
and B N is A B, but but it has been translated.
all right. Okay, A, B, and they're saying A sub n, B sub n is just simply a translation of A, B. And then how do you figure that? How do we conclude A sub n, B sub n is
Because it is even positive integer po.
all right, because when you perform those half turns and there's an even number of them based on what we described, then that means ayun, and in fact, A sub n is the image of A and then B is the image of B sub n. So parang ano, hindi to nung babaliktad. So translation talaga. So A sub n is the image of A and B sub n is the image of B. In other words, we get a parallelogram here. And that's it. That's why A sub n is the same as B sub n. All right. So napadali ng argument because of the recognition of what happens when you perform these successive half turns. All right. Diba? Ang straightforward na. Imagine if we had parang no such mechanism to help us. That we are not able to anchor our argument on ano mangyayari when you do these so many half turns. All right. So let me write down the argument. Since n is even, the final image of all the final image of AB after doing these n half turns is A sub n, B sub n, which must be a translation. Which must be a translation of A, B. So A, B, and then here is A sub n, B sub n. So therefore, thus A sub n, B sub n, B is a parallelogram. So A sub n equals B sub n. All right. Now, so that's done. Okay, just a couple of lines. But now the follow-up, what if n is odd?
Uh, 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 uh. Nothing changes.
Ganun pa rin?
Wait. Tang, 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 tang.
But when you perform an odd number of half turns, what's the result?
A half turn.
A half turn. Okay, so kasi pag pagsasamahin na natin ganito, let's say we do let's say 7 half turns. So that's going to be 6 half turns plus 1 half turn. But 6 half turns is a translation. And we just talked about how when you do a translation plus a half turn, that's going to be a half turn. So in other words, when we do an odd number of half turns, the result is the same as a single half turn, just at some particular center.
Na
So then,
malayo po.
okay, that's some center. So mangyayari, nandito ng A sub n and nandito ang B sub n. So question, A sub n and B sub n. What's your conclusion about that equation? Is that true?
Yes.
But this is a
No. Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
not necessarily. Okay, kasi A sub n and B sub n, instead of being sides of a parallelogram, instead of being opposite sides of a parallelogram, they're gonna be diagonals of a parallelogram. And given a parallelogram, the diagonals are not necessarily congruent. All right. They are not necessarily congruent. But what we do know is what's true, although this is not what the problem is asking for, is that A B sub n is the same as B A sub n. So sila nung magpapareho, but not A sub n and B sub n. All right? Okay. Ano naman nung next? Wait, looking at my list.
Oh no. And me for the next week po. E.
So actually ito, I'd like you to try this out.
On my own.
Yes.
And the and the and the and the right-sided polygon. It's not a right-sided polygon. Ako, impossible.
Ito rin. Try mo rin.
With the ano po, with the cute heart.
Alright. So try mo rin gawin. Alright? Okay, so yay.
Nasa ano, My Little Pony.
Ang cute-cute natin. Okay. Oh wait, so na-try na natin, no? What if it's wait, hold on. A sub n equals B sub n.
Little Pony.
Then nalito ako kasi nagkahalo-halo ng mga problems. Oh wait, actually, yes. Oh wait, ito nung ano. Okay, ito let's work on this. So we have an odd positive integer n, and then n such points, and then an arbitrary point a. And then what we want to do is move a. So we're not talking about segment, just a point. A reflect with respect to O1, O2, and then O sub n. So and then at the end of those n half turns, the image of A is A sub n. And then what we want to do is do the whole process again, but now starting with A sub n. So we're going to do half turns with respect to the same collection of centers, but in the same order with respect to O1, O2, all the way to O sub n. And then the resulting image, let's call it A sub 2n. So, wow, show that A sub 2n is going to be the same starting point right from the start. Illustrate natin Okay, GeoGebra tayo.
I'm going to literally perish.
Okay, di natin ito kailangan. Wait, naka-share na ba ng GeoGebra? Yes. Okay, so we have, an odd number of points.
Dapat gawin niya po for infinity is prove that infinity is odd.
What? Okay, first, an odd number of points. Let's call them ito O1, O2. Okay, gulo-guluhin natin. Andito ng ng fifth one. Actually, odd number lang naman kailangan, no? But 5, pwede, 3 na lang kaya para I'm afraid
9 po, 9.
9? Sure. Okay. Ano sige, andito na O1, O3, lakasan na lang ng loob, and then O4, and then O5.
Nasaan na po yung O6, O7, O8, O9?
Wala, kasi may isang point, i-reflect natin with respect to these 5 points. Tapos at the end, ganun ulit. magre-reflect ulit with respect to the same 5 centers, itong mga O1 all the way to O5. Okay. So, okie
Dapat
dokie.
gawin niyo po, make all of the, make them follow, make them fall on, make them fall on a hard shape.
Oh my gosh. Alright. Ito ng mga centers. Let's color them black. Okay. So A with respect to O1. Then with respect to O2. Then with respect to O3. Oh no, ang layo. Okay. I'm gonna zoom out. Okay. And then with respect to O4.
The star theorem.
And then with respect to O5. Ayun. And then, balik ulit, with respect to O1,
Parang
then with
palayo po na
respect
palayo.
to O2, with respect to O3, with respect to O4.
Lumilit!
Nasa tayo, no? C prime na. Tingnan mo nung point A. Ang coordinates niya ng 7.68, 1.72. Tingnan natin ng next. Ayan o, look here. A and C double prime. Pareho.
Impossible.
But hey, okay.
Galing.
But here we are anyway. Okay. Okay. It's got something to do with the fact that ito. We did first
But this is witchcraft po. You must be burned at stake.
burn gingerbread at the stake. Okay. All right. Ganito. Nung first run, we did an odd number of half turns, di ba? Actually, ganito. Overall, we did 2n half turns. But when you do 2n half turns, what's the end result?
Nothing. Translation.
A translation. Okay. Pero ito nangyari nung A bumalik sa sarili niya. So, I mean, there's a translation along the zero vector. Kung kumbaga, parang kung hindi ka gumalaw. Trivial translation. So, parang ganun nung pinupunteriya natin na at the end of it all, yung mga translations natin, yung translation natin doesn't move a point to a different location, but it moves it back to itself. So parang ganun dapat mangyari kasi it doesn't matter where the starting point A was. A could be anywhere, and in the end, doon pa rin babalik sa sarili niya. Okay?
In order to prove this po, we need to prove it for an infinite number of times. For all other
Iba yun. Iba nung
infinite.
not necessarily infinite number of times kasi even if it's an infinite number of times.
Do each task po successively half para you can do an infinite number of tasks in only a finite amount of time.
Pero kasi kung ganun, parang walang limit yun eh. Kasi, halimbawa, you do it an odd number or an even number of times. Parang baka iba ang result if you do it an even number of times eh. Anyways, ganito. Balik na tayo dun sa problem statement. Okay. if you do the half turns A, and then half turn around O1, half turn, O2, half turn, until the O sub n half turn. What did you say the net result was when you do this odd number of half turns?
Well, the result will
So
be
actually, when you do an odd number of half turns, what's the result?
half turn.
A half turn. Okay, a half turn about uh it's gonna be a different center, right?
Opo.
Wag na natin hanapin nasa ng point na yon, but there is such a point, and let's call that point O. Ngayon, what we intend to do is on A sub n, do the same steps, or half turn about O1, half turn about O2, and then half turn about O sub n. So the result is going to be A sub 2n. But then, as you said, when you perform these half turns and there's an odd number of them, the result is a half turn, a different half turn about about a particular point. What is that point?
O.
Is it the same point O as the one on the left? Or should it be or is it possibly different? Or is it the same point O?
Possibly different.
Okay, may figure kanina.
Here's the sub.
Wait lang po.
Okay.
Mhm. Ah, yes, yes, yes. All of them will have turn again, so it will be the same center.
Okay. Yes. So here's the thing. All right. We're doing the same operation
Tsaka ano po pala, yung
in the same
vector
sequence.
addition, they're the same sum.
All right. So it's the same kind of action. So of course, if you employ the action on different points, the resulting images will be different. Kumbaga, you start instead of on point A, if you do it on point B, then B sub n will be different from A sub n. But then the thing is, when you add those n half turns, so okay, we're gonna get a half turn, and then the center of the resulting half turn is a point O. So the thing is, this resulting half turn doesn't depend on the starting point A or B. It depends only on the half turns themselves. It depends only on O1, O2, and O sub n. And so on the second leg of the set of operations, the ones colored orange, we're doing the same half turns with respect to the same centers in the same order. Therefore, the half turn that is employed in moving A sub n to A sub 2n must be a half turn about the same point O. So O here
So a full
must,
turn po.
yes, okay. So, but the point is, I think na-synthesize mo na. So it must be the same center O since the sequence of component half turns, since the sequences of component half turns are identical. Okay? So, yun ang kicker doon kasi nangyari, okay, here is O, and then andito nung A. So, when you do the first half turn, ang destination, A sub n. But then, when you do a half turn, acting on A sub n, starting on the A sub n, but with respect to the same center, that's going to bring you back to A. So that's why A sub 2n and A are the same. That's why. Okay? Getting now, kasi otherwise, so as you can see, if you're going to try to write down an argument in terms of the coordinates or specifically about n, yikes, magiging magulo to. Okay, so ito, let's write down. That's because
Chaos, boys, what is chaos is what the chaos and entropy is what the world needs.
what the world needs now are chaos and entropy. Okay, so here's the fact that two half turns about the same center, okay, is the identity transformation. So in other words, it's a transformation where you actually don't do anything, okay, or at least the net effect is nothing. Okay, therefore, A sub A and A sub 2n are the same. But then we have, ayun no, what if n is even?
If n is even,
Ano ngayon mangyayari?
So
Okay.
it will be translated if n is even.
Oo.
And then if it is done again, it will be translated further.
Yes, further. How are you so sure it's further? Imposible bang bumalik?
Impossible.
Bakit? And you're right. Kasi,
It's the same center. So it will be
wait. What's the result of center pa rin ba?
So nangyari to. Wait lang. Isang center na 'yan. So babalik siya.
This time, n is even, di ba? So when you do n half turns and n is even, what's the result?
And half turns and n is even. Translation.
Translation. And so, walang center. Walang center, but rather what defines the translation is a vector.
So tuloy same na vector po in the same direction. So it will go further.
Yes. So therefore, hindi babalik. All right. Okay. So that's what's going to happen when n is even. So here, if n is odd, and then if n is even, so mangyayari when you start with A and do O1 half turn until O sub n half turn, you'll get A sub n, but then that's the same as doing a translation along a vector v. And then when you perform the same set of half turns, same sequence, bringing us to A sub 2n. So what we get is, again, a translation along the same vector v. Therefore, thus, A sub 2n is the translation of A along the vector 2v. So therefore, A to N and A are different. Okay, I'm curious to see how this is gonna look like in GeoGebra. Balikan natin. Okay,
So, algebra
tanggalin
violates the
natin,
Geneva Conventions.
tanggalin natin ang ano nung O5.
Why? Why remove
Yep.
po when you can add?
Let's Google. Para madali mawala ng iba. So, alright. We have, dito ng A, no
No,
starting
no.
point, no?
I was, ano, when, ano po, when it requires even number, and you're literally already at 5. Why not go for 6 instead of 4?
Dito na eh. Alright. So, okay. So, B, ito nung ano, nung end of the first 4 half turns. So, nung B naman, anong mangyayari? So, observe that A to B, so yun yung result ng first set of half turns. So, drawing natin ng vector, A going to be, just so we could visualize. Okay. Tapos, okay, reflections again. B with respect to O1, and then with respect to O2, and then with respect to O3, and then with respect to O4. Ayun, C. Tapos, so as you can see, nung A, B, and C, ayun o, collinear. Collinear sila.
Linear po sila, cool linear.
Okay, collinear. Tapos, so that we can check if from A to C is twice the vector U there, then that's the same as verifying that B is the midpoint of A and C. So ganito gagawin ko. I'm gonna use the midpoint function.
Why?
Midpoint.
Why not prove it geometrically po?
I guess this is also geometric, di ba? Let's find the midpoint of A and C. Ayun, point D. The midpoint D is identical to point B.
How do you know po it's identical? What if there's a 0.00001?
Ayun. Basta yun. Alright. At least two decimal places. Alright, so ayun nga, nangyari, mas lumayo. Okay, so I think that was interesting. Ito, before tayo pumunta sa others, show that the midpoints of the sides of an arbitrary quadrilateral form a parallelogram. Now, of course, pwede itong i-prove without thinking of geometric transformations. So let's just draw, but let's try to see how we can use geometric transformations. So ito, we have A, B, C, D, and then the midpoints are, let's call them P, and then Q, and then R, and then this is S. Usually when you have midpoints, then there's a reflection that can be inserted into the discussion. So for example, P is the midpoint of AB, so that means if you do a half turn around P, the image of A is going to be B. Okay, and then if you do it naman along B half turn around Q, B will be brought to C. And then around half turn on R, C's image is D. And then around S, the image of D is A. Okay, so what we did here is 4 half turns. Okay.
But
So starting from A when we do a half turns with respect to P, Q, R, S. Well, if you do 4 half turns, what's the result? So when you do 4 half turns, the result is
a translation.
Is a translation which brought A back to itself. So i.e. the identity translation. All right. So, okay, how does that help us prove that PQRS is a parallelogram? So, I'm sure nakakita ka na ng proof nito why PQ and RS are the same and they're congruent, and the same with QR and then PS. But in terms of translations, it's because of the following. Okay. Okay. The half turns okay, with respect to P and Q is a translation. Okay, which brings okay, which brings A to C. Okay. So its vector, the vector of this translation, so its vector, so its vector V is parallel to AC. And furthermore, this vector as its vector V is parallel to AC. But then the half turns with respect to R and S is also a translation which brings, so kasi mangyayari nung A napunta sa B and then to C. And then when you do the last translations, C will be brought to D and then D brought back to A. So the half turns with respect to the last two centers R and S is a translation which brings C to A. So it's vector W is parallel to AC. However, okay, when you do the 4 translations, the result is supposed to be the identity translation. Kumbaga, walang nangyari. But then, the first 2 half turns is along vector V, and the last 2 half turns are along vector W. But then, when you do these translations along these 2 vectors successively, the net effect is 0. Parang walang nangyari. So what then is our conclusion on vectors V and W?
They are opposite.
All right. Therefore, okay, V and W are opposite each other, so they're negatives of each other. Okay. So, pero kasi, nung... Okay, if you now look at vector PQ, okay, kasi nung vector PQ, okay, is half of vector AC. Sandali lang ah. I'm trying to avoid nung typical geometry argument kasi dito.
Is that na po the geometer devil getting inside your head po?
Oo nga eh. So, kasi parang I want to make this an illustration on an argument using just transformations.
You are now transformed into a squirrel. Ano po? Geometers after I transformed them into an atom. Now they suddenly don't like transformations anymore. Ayun. Hexagon. Blue juice. Fuck.
Wait lang natin.
Die. Yung anthocyanate degrades.
So V and W are negatives of each other. Pero kasi what I'm trying to argue is that PQ and RS are parang parallel, and you know what? Next time, balikan na lang natin. I want to wrap this up. Okay. Pero ito, last before we tas next time nung
Oh no, hexagon.
hexagon. Ito. Opposite sides of a hexagon are congruent and parallel. Medyo mas nahirapan ako mag-drawing ito kanina, but okay. Ito, same as that. Okay. Tapos, ito. Supposed to be the same. And, all right. So it's labeled A, B, C, D, E, F. So when you draw a hexagon, an arbitrary hexagon, the diagonals don't have to be concurrent. We know in a regular hexagon, the diagonals are concurrent. But here we are asked to show that even if it's not a regular hexagon, in fact, all you just need is for if you compare opposite sides, for the members of that pair to be parallel and congruent. In fact, apparently that's all we need, and the diagonals are already going to be concurrent.
No way. Wait,
So even
actually
if it's not a regular hexagon.
I think I have an idea kasi
Sige.
it looks like a cube.
Okay.
It's like a rectangular prism.
All right. Sige. Kasi I have something that I need to go to next, but I want to. Sige.
Actually po pala, I think that actually I'm onto something on there. It kind of looks like a rectangular prism.
Gusto mo try mo na lang?
Hindi po. Okay lang
I did. All right. Kasi I have to. All right. So I want to. Ayaw namang mabitin. So ito tapusin natin dito. So ganito. AB and ED are congruent. Diba? So therefore, you can form a parallelogram ABDE. ABDE. You can form a parallelogram, and then the center, which is the intersection of their diagonals, that would be, let's call it point O. Then you can interpret that point O as a center of a half turn. Okay. Let AD and BE intersect at O. Then Okay, then since AB equals ED and AB is parallel to ED, the half turn about O maps A to D and B going to E. Okay, so our goal is to show that the diagonals are concurrent. So all we got to do is show that FC passes through O. That's all we got to do. Show that FC passes through O. So gagamit ba tayo ng concurrency theorem dito, which I actually have not discussed formally any concurrency theorem. But then we got to utilize mga Chavez theorem. But hey, ganito no. We can do the same argument. Okay, I'm not gonna draw it anymore, but similarly, okay, since BC is equal to FE. So what are the segments I'm referring to? Ito
Grabe
namang
po, I
dalawang
think
to.
it's to scale.
Ayan.
I think it is to scale.
Nagkataon, all right? Since those red segments are parallel and congruent, then there is a center of a rotation that acts on BC, bringing it to EF. Similarly, since BC equals FE and BC is parallel to FE, there is a point P such that the half turn about P maps B to E and C to F.
So,
However,
for any even-sided polygon, this works?
check mo. Tignan mo. Tignan mo if it works. Ito. Pero ganito. B, E. Okay. Pero kasi, since B is mapped to E, that means O is the midpoint of B and E. But then if the half turn about P maps B to E, that means P is the midpoint of B and E. So consequence, O and P are the same. Thus, O is equal to P. In other words, okay, the half turn about O maps C to F. Kasi nangyari, di ba? The half turn about P, it brings C to F. But then P is the same as O. So therefore, the half turn about O brings C to F. But then, consequently, it means actually C, O, and F are collinear, and in fact, O is the midpoint. And that's it. Therefore, CF also passes through O, which makes O truly the point of concurrency. Done.
What?
Mhm.
So basically,
So-
prove that all of the points of the reflection sort of reflect reference points
Oo, may
the same,
reference point.
are the same.
Pero ganito, if meron tayong mga, kunwari if you have an octagon, ganito kailangan natin nung consistency kasi, hold on in other words, wrap up ko lang. The half about O maps C to F. Thus, okay, O, C, F are collinear. So, ayan, CF also passes through O. Okay. Parang hindi na natin dito nagamit nung the fact that A, F, and CD are parallel and collinear. But you know what? Actually, kasi just using the fact that AB and ED are congruent and parallel, and BC and FE are congruent and parallel, kasi
Ganito. So, sabihin mo,
mangyayari,
let's say po sa octagon, you could prove the entire hexagon and then not prove the two other sides. Then thus it is ano, then thus it is
pero
also.
tingnan natin kung paano nung matching, no, nung ano. I recommend check mo, but I really need to go now. But hey, I've already given you a lot to think about. Some problems with hearts. Okay,
Tama na po,
bye.
some my little pony problems po.
Okay, little pony problems. Bye bye. I gotta go.
Okay po, bye-bye po.